What's going on, everybody? This is Pastor Kyle, and we are back with our third installment of our Recharge Worship Survivor Series. And we are talking to individuals who have either had someone go through breast cancer that is close to them, or people who have had breast cancer themselves. So the first week, we talked to my mom about her journey. Last week, we talked to my friend Justin Bowers, and he talked about his mom's legacy, how he lost his mom to cancer, and how he is surviving for her. And today I want to talk to another one of my close friends, one of my best friends, Micha, Logan, ML6, who is a survivor as well. So appreciate you coming through and kicking it with us. So, I just want to ask you just a couple questions about your journey. So the first one is, take us back to, or go back to when you first got diagnosed. How did you find out that you had breast cancer?
I was at my annual. Women, for those of you men who don't know, women go to an annual every year. They're supposed to get checked out, all their body parts checked out. And as I was laying on the table, the nurse was doing regular checks, things I've gone through since I was a teenager. And when she got to my right breast, she felt around and she just had this kind of concerning look on her face. Then she went to my left one, she went back to my right, and then she asked me, "Hey, have you been doing your at-home breast check?" And I was like, sure, no, and she was like, and she went and got my doctor. They came back in, they finished everything up, they went right back to my breast, and I was like, what is going on? And they sent me to go get a mammogram. And from the mammogram to the biopsy, they did a biopsy and an ultrasound. Words I didn't use on a regular basis, words that I was not familiar with. And from those tests, in the span of like a week and a half, I went from just going to get my annual, ran up on my birth control, to getting off my birth control and finding out I had stage 2 breast cancer. Crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. What were just some of the thoughts and like the emotions that came with that? Like they tell you finally, what are you thinking? What are you feeling?
I was in complete shock. Like when I got the call, I was at work, on air, live, and I put my doctor on hold because I had to do a break. And I was just completely just devastated, and I was in shock. And then I started thinking about like how to tell my family, if I wanted to tell my family and friends, how was I going? Then I was like, yo, like, what is cancer? Because I didn't know anything about it. And I'm like, yo, you started thinking about like who you done wrong. I started thinking about boyfriends. I was like, man, was I too mean to him? Was I too sister girl with him? like, what did I do? You just go through these world of emotions, and the anger doesn't set in. It didn't set in for me until I got home and quiet that night. And then I just started like, I was mad, and I was just like, what? And I was sad, and I cried a lot. It was difficult. Of course, I told my parents wanted to immediately get on a plane from Detroit and come. I told them no. At the time, my grandmother was living, my Aunt Renee, Austin, and my cousin Jaron, they were still in Huntsville at the time too. So, they were with me, but I just kind of was like, yo, I just want to be by myself. And I just had to process. I really had to process it and go through the emotions. And you don't really know what to feel, to be honest. Like, it's devastating. You go through just like this, and you just like, and it's like constant. And then my boss gave me time off work, but I was like, I can't sit in the house because I'm a thinker, and I analyze, I think, and then I'll start cleaning, and it'll just get real crazy in its own way. So I was like, no, I got to go to work. I gotta be out. I couldn't just sit in the house. And then I remember getting a call from, how we have the aunts and the uncles in the church. And I got a call from my aunt, Vanderhorst. And she basically got me together. She was like, she's a breast cancer survivor. And she was like, I need you to fight. I need you to get over yourself. I need you to get up. I need you to look in the mirror. And I need you to fight this. What we're not going to do, we're not about to wallow. And I was like, dang, Aunt Janice, like, I just found out. But her being the way, if you know Janice Vanderhorst, she about, like, when she speaks, she may be like, she's flying quiet, but when she opens her mouth, is what it is. And her words really catapulted me into like survival, living, getting through it, beating it. So yeah, that was like the wave of emotions that I went through.
Wow. So you talked about, you told your parents, there's two questions I want to ask. The first one is, typically when we're hearing about breast cancer, typically it's coming from people, or in the past, it's been people who were older, right? So, most people are thinking like, okay, if I have to tell my parent I have breast cancer, it's not going to be at an early age. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be later on in life. So, like, how old were you when you got diagnosed?
I was 31. And so they tell you to not look for it until you're over 40. 45 is when you're supposed to be program. But I was 31. Wow. No history. Ate well. Didn't drink. I had stopped, hitting the bottle probably a couple of years prior to be perfectly honest. I believe that God was being super intentional with making sure that I had a cleanse. I didn't even realize. I just started it just started tasting gross to me. So I had stopped that. And just went out with friends. I just did it for probably 2 years prior to. It was really weird even how that even transpired leading up to. One bad night, I changed your life forever. So,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I got you.
like, nah, I'm good. I'm so good. So it was like 2 years prior. And so leading up, I was, nothing in my system was really confusing. Even to my doctor. Like, my doctor cried because I was her youngest person that she's ever had that was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she could not trace it. I did every gene test, everything, and they couldn't trace it. She was literally standing and crying to the point where before we left the office, she prayed with me, my grandmother, and my aunt, and my cousin Oscar. I need prayer with this too, going in as her doctor, because I just don't know.
Wow.
So for at the breast center, it was like, when I walked in, it was like I was this science project for them. Yeah. Because they've never experienced this before. And I realized it because every time I go make my appointment, even thereafter, even now, it's like when my doctor sees me, she looks at me like I changed her thought process of medicine as it pertains to cancer.
Wow.
My oncologist, after me, he stopped working. Once I got free, cancer free, he was like, I'm done. He was like, because of how my faith, because I told him, I said, stop trying to figure this out. Stop trying to go to your drawing boards and your data. You're not going to figure this out, because of what I asked God at the beginning of the year. Ironically, he was answering my prayer through breast cancer. So I had to just tell him, yo, we just got to get through it. Y'all can't waste any more time trying to figure it out. We just got to get me better. And so once they did that, my oncologist literally retired and was out. I want to leave on a good note. You changed the game. I'm good.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was very different. But what I found out was when I finally did start sharing my story, women of all ages, 18. I met a girl who was 18 and had a double mastectomy.
Oh my goodness!
Women in their 20s. I met a young lady 20 something, had 2 kids, and she had triple negative breast cancer, which is the breast cancer that is more apt in African American women that will and can kill Black women. Here's the thing.
Wow.
White women get it more, but when Black women get it, we get it at a higher rate and we die from it.
Yeah.
So when we hear that triple negative, which I did not have, but this young lady got it not once but twice. You know what I'm saying? So it's I was starting to hear more stories of young women, and I was like, yo, mind you, there's no books out there that talk about it. There's no information about young women that get diagnosed with breast cancer. So, I had all the older women, the ones that my mom did tell when I told her not to, but I had, the older women coming to me, talking to me and telling me, I'm like, yo, you're of age. There's really nothing that you can tell me. And honestly, my Aunt Janice, and it was your mom, when you linked me up with your mom was one of the voices that I listened to. I didn't listen to a lot of older women. I just didn't. But your mom, she was on me. She was me and your mom. You know what I'm saying? You know how your
Yeah,
mom is.
yeah,
So
yeah.
she was giving me language that I could understand. She
Mm.
was helping me through the questions that I might not have been able to ask the doctors. She was able to give me the answers to those questions. That was my dog sneezing. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you good, you good,
Okay,
you
so
good.
yeah, so it was like, because it's not a normal conversation that young women get breast cancer, but I'm here to tell you, young
Right.
women get it. And when we get
Yeah.
it, it's so aggressive. And it's like, because
Wow.
what mine was, I was on the verge of stage 3. That's how fast it was growing. Within a year's time, I went from nothing to stage 2. And just say if I wouldn't have gone and gotten my annual and I'd have known, let's say I would have missed the appointment, but like, oh, it's cool, I'll just wait a few more months, or I'll just wait till next year, I would have had stage 3.
And that's like you almost, yeah, Jesus, man.
4
Wow.
stages. I was at stage
Yeah.
2 and stage 3. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that it's more aggressive when it gets
The younger you are, the more
yeah, the
aggressive
younger
it is.
you are, the more aggressive. I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
so okay, real quick. So you said that you didn't listen to all of the voices, you picked some out. For the person who's listening, there's probably, a 20-year-old that's listening to
Yeah.
this that I know that probably has gotten diagnosed. How do
Right.
you figure out, what voices to listen to?
I tell young women all the time, even when they call and talk to me, I say, look, you have to be at one with your own voice in your head, and you have to know what you can and cannot handle. And
Gotcha.
once you know that, that'll give you the capacity to be able to say, okay, I can handle this conversation with this person. I can handle this conversation, because everybody's journey is different. I was having a conversation with a young lady who was scared to take chemo because she didn't want her hair to fall out, her nails to turn black, and this and the third.
Yeah.
I told her, well, yeah, your hair's gonna fall out. I said, but my nails didn't turn black. I kept fly nails my whole time. Like, my toenails didn't turn black. My skin didn't really change. Like, even when I did radiation, I didn't burn. I moisturized before I got diagnosed. I moisturized during my diagnosis and after. And I just have a tan. So it just looks like I have a tan where they did radiation. You know what I'm saying? So it really depends on your body. Like, you got to know yourself and be comfortable with who you are and what you allow into your space. And I could not let everybody's horror story negate what and how I was going to handle my treatment. Because if that was the case, I would have been completely devastated. Meanwhile, I went to my nail tech. I told my nail tech, hey, this is what I'm going through. She made sure she had the right products. I went to my dentist. I let my dentist know, hey, I'm going through chemo. What can we do? She upped me on the fluoride to make sure my teeth stayed intact. Like, I didn't lose no teeth, nothing turned black. You know what I'm saying? Like, the only thing I can say is that my eyes got bad because that was after the chemo drugs that I got on afterwards. But, your body, it just really depends. Know your body. You have to know your body. My body wasn't the same as your mom's body. My body wasn't the same as the lady at the church's body. It was my body. I had to pay attention. I tell girls all the time, keep a journal. Keep a journal of things that happen to you so that when you go to the doctor, you can know and say, hey, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me. What is this from? Is it from my cocktail? Is it from something I'm eating? Is it from something I'm not doing? What?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's good that you touched on that, because I think everybody that I've spoken to on this series, but also just everybody I've spoken to outside, just in general, has said the same thing, that the journey is going to be different, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be different for everybody. Like, literally, just in this, my mom, when she talked about chemo and everything, that it wiped her out literally for the week. Like, she could not do anything else.
Yeah.
Justin said when his mom was going through chemo, she was tired, but she forced herself to go to work every day, right? The one thing that I remember about you is, like, you were going through everything, and I think maybe there was like 1 or 2 days that I know of, and I'm sure you had other days, but 1 or 2 days that I know of where it was like, hey, can you go get this for me?
Yeah.
Because I just can't today. But for the most part, you really were like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, we knew, but it was like, I was always, I don't think I've ever told you this, but I was always I was like comparing and contrasting like my mom's experience with yours.
Yeah.
And so like, there were times where I was like, yo,
Is
does
she
she really got cancer? Like, cause like you were just out, you know what I'm saying? And it's interesting that the more, time you spend with the disease, the more knowledgeable you have to become, right?
Yeah.
So my mom, I talked about how when she got diagnosed, I just started seeing every time I came home, I saw more books, more books, more books. And like every time me and you had a conversation, you would know more about what was happening. How can people become more knowledgeable about, that stuff if they have been diagnosed?
So for me, there were moments where I had to not look at any literature.
Hmm.
I didn't want to consume myself. I didn't want to, again, like I said earlier, I didn't want to consume myself with someone else's process.
Got you. Okay.
I just understood my process as my process. I can't tell you about a woman who has triple negative breast cancer because I did not have triple negative breast cancer. I had stage 2 basal ductal carcinoma. I can tell you that. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you what my cocktail did for me. Cocktail, when I say cocktail, for those of you who don't know, that's the combination of medicines that you get that run through your body during a 3 to 4 hour chemo treatment. And so I can tell you what the white blood cell medicine did to me the next day after chemo, because what chemo does is it knocks out your good and bad cells. So the next day you have to go in and get this treatment, the shot to boost your white blood cells, and it hurts. They told me to take as much Zyrtex as I could. So I'm popping Zyrtex like Tic Tacs. But at night, I would feel like I had literally Mike Tyson, George Foreman, Floyd Mayweather hitting me in my body at night, because the medicine would really put my bones in pain. And I would literally cry myself to sleep. And those were moments where I couldn't call y'all. I couldn't call my parents. I couldn't call anybody. I literally had to talk to God and be frustrated and yell. And I would get up and go to work and be on air for the Tennessee Valley as if I didn't just get beat up the night before.
Wow.
I can tell you those experiences, and those experiences you can't necessarily find in a book. And even when I wrote my book, it's one long chapter, but it's really like thoughts in my head and like journal entries that I had when I felt like journaling. Because there were days where I just didn't feel like journaling, or I would just do half a page because I was tired. Yeah, I did. I moved, and when I look back, I probably should have rested a lot more. But I was so determined to live and for it not to take control of my life. I didn't want to miss baby showers. I didn't want to. Remember when we went to Chicago for baby's wedding?
Yeah.
I had just had a cancer treatment. I was in the back seat, knocked out, but I had to go celebrate my boy and his wife. You know what I'm saying? I was tired. I was exhausted, pained on the inside, but I wanted to go on the trip. I didn't want to miss it. Baby showers, I'd show up, I'd be in the corner, knocked out. Because when you go to chemo, you just fall asleep wherever. You don't care. Birthday parties, I would go show my for a little bit. I'll be tired, exhausted, go celebrate, go home. You know what I'm saying? My family, we went on a family trip to Hawaii, and I had to get 2 chemos back to back. It was so hard on my body. But I'm glad I went, because that was one of the last family trips I went on with my dad. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I was out of it for the first couple of days, but if I would have missed that trip, I wouldn't have had that moment with my dad. That's how I look at it. Yes, this moment I have cancer, but there are other moments that are happening around me that I want to be involved in, that are kind of, for that moment, I was just regular. Yeah, I may be out, and people may have to wonder, is she out? Does she really have it? I know what I'm feeling on the inside, but I'm not letting y'all show it. And it wasn't that I didn't call on you guys if I didn't need you, but it would be like, if I knew that I could do it, I would want to do it. And y'all, you all know me. If I'm asking,
for sure. No, it's bad.
I just do. I tell this story of how one day I was running, ripping and running. I don't got nothing going through my body. And I remember opening the door, it closing. The sun was up. It was in the afternoon. When I woke up, it was in the middle of the night, dark, and I was still on my floor. I had literally, my body said enough. I was so glad I made it in the door for it to close because I literally woke up on the floor. Like, I don't remember passing out. I don't remember doing anything. But my body said enough. That's how much I was going and not, just trying to live a regular life. My body was like, nah, boo, we got a whole thing going on. We need to go to sleep. Yeah, it was so crazy. I woke up and I was like, Keys was like on the floor. I think I went grocery shopping. They was on the floor. I literally just passed out. So, in terms of literature, even now, I don't consume myself with a lot of literature. I don't. And I do that on purpose. I'm knowledgeable. But I speak from a place of like, look at these books. I'm going to give you real conversation about what I went through.
Yeah.
I'm going to just give it to you hardcore because what they're not going to tell you in the books is they're not going to tell you like, all right, you're going to lose your hair, but you lose it everywhere. And when I say everywhere, but that's a good thing because you don't got to worry about shaving or waxing, ladies. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you, you know what I'm saying? When you lose your hair in the shower, when you get in the shower, and that first shower, when that water hits your head, it does something to you. And you like, ooh, I see why. And to start enjoying or finding the positive within the negative. They're not going to tell you like, they're going to try and say, oh, don't get your nails done. Please, be cute. Be cute. You can go through it, but you can still do things that still make you feel because you're young and you're vibrant. You're supposed to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes at us aggressively, but it's like again, moments. You gotta be in the moment. If you want to dress cute and be cute, for me, I was a public figure, so I had to be out. I had to figure it out. My eyebrows and eyelashes didn't really start falling out until my last round of chemo. And then that's when I looked in the mirror one day and I cried because I felt like that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I look like Jeffrey. But I had an event to do. So I had to suck it up, get it together, and get to my event. So it's like I can't consume myself with too much information. I can only know what I went through and what and I'm very honest. When other women hit me up and they tell me what their diagnosis is, I'm like, listen, this is what I had. This was my cocktail. This is what I went through. Yours is probably going to be completely different. Also, that was 7 years later. Medicine and how they handle young women now are a tad bit different. And the things that they have now they've come up with their treatment plans from 7 years ago, as they should. You know what I'm saying? As they should. The research is so expensive. Them still trying to figure out how to like make the pieces fit. So I study the books that I do have. I don't consume myself with it. I don't.
Yeah. I think that's good though. I think that, for whoever's watching, again, we talk about your journey being unique. I think, however, you're talking about knowing, you have to know, where you are mentally. Like, is that something that is going to push you to where you're just like, oh man, forget it. It's too much. Or is that something that's going to push you to be like, oh no, it's going to help you or hurt you. And I guess that's what I've kind of been hearing from everything that you're saying is just know what to filter out, know what to keep, learn yourself.
I had to filter people.
There you go.
I had to filter people in my life. There were really close friends that couldn't be a part of the journey because they couldn't handle it. And I respected that they couldn't handle it. Because here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to try to get you to help to understand what I'm going through. And I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't have the capacity to do that. So I'm going to let you go over here. And if you need to take a break from my friendship, it's no lost love. I don't feel any type of way. Because you have to understand where people are. Everybody's not supposed to be a part of every journey you go through. And you got to be okay with that. You can't be mad. You can't be angry. You got to look at it as a blessing because I wasn't trying to be stressed out more than I needed to be over somebody else's emotions. No, absolutely not. So there were certain people that could not be a part of the journey. They came in, at the end, at the celebration. And you know what? It was fine. It was perfectly fine. You couldn't be there when I got the bottle of oil thrown on me. You couldn't do it. That wasn't for you to be at. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
it was so much oil.
It was so Listen, guys. So look, there's a lot of jokes in here from situations that. Look, man. Look, I'm yeah. So anybody that's watching, when I'm laughing, I'm not being disrespectful to
No.
anything that she's saying. The one thing about Micah is that there's always going to be jokes, no matter what. I remember. I think you had. It's gonna sound terrible, but I remember when I think you had called me for something, and I didn't pick up because I think I was at work or something like that. So I called you after, and you didn't pick up, and I left you a message and was like, "Yo, you remember?" I was I was like, "Yo, So the way that I get through
Are you
things is
alive?
when
Okay.
are you alive? Are you dead? I don't know, but I know you do have cancer. So, so the way that I get through things is I have to make jokes, right? So when my mom was going through chemo and everything, I have to make jokes in order to get through things. So that was one of the things. I do want to just kind of shift, and we'll end here. We definitely want to talk about the book, but one of the things I remember you saying, it was basically your motto, was I had cancer didn't have me. Right. And, I remember there was like this huge shift that happened where you sort of just embraced having breast cancer and you started speaking about it. You did your cancer walks and runs and had a whole team. T Lars made the shirts and pink Sundays, pink, all different types of things. What made you say, all right, in the midst of me going through it, I'm going to use what I know so far to help somebody else?
Honestly, it wasn't something I wanted to do. I kind of wanted to do it for myself.
Wow.
Halfway through, I was at the barbershop. When I went to the barbershop, there was a guy in there in the community. He was like, yo, he was in there talking, and basically, he was like, aren't you ML6 on the radio? I was like, yeah. And he was like, you got cancer? And I was like, yeah, but I ain't talking about like that. He was like, why not? He was like, you have a platform. He was like, they need to hear it. Women need to hear from you. Like, he just went on this whole thing, and I was like, hey, yo, I'm just here to get this haircut. I don't know. Like, I got my boy Lo here with me, and Lo's looking at him. Like, and everybody, and I'm just kind of like, but what he's saying, I'm taking it in, and I'm just like, I'll think about it. Within that same week, I had to do something for Carlisha Swan's, she has like a youth camp. And I went to talk to the girls. And that was kind of my first kind of like, let me see how this is and sharing what I'm going through. And it was a small group of young girls. And it gave me an opportunity to share it. And when I did that, it released something in me. And I remember going to work, telling my boss, today's the day. He was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. Told my coworkers, I was like, I'm going to do it at the 12, my 12 o'clock break. And everybody came in the studio with me. And I just said it. And the phone lines was going up. My social media was blowing up. And I was like, okay, here we are. So it was not my first initial thing. I did not want to rush. So often we get caught up in rushing to tell the story or tell the testimony. And I don't believe that God had given me a release to speak on it, because there were some things that he and I needed to discuss and go over first. Wow. And there were some things I had to be real with him first. And I use that even going forward. It taught me something. And don't be so quick to tell that testimony if God has not given you a release yet, because it will not have the same effect and the effect that God needs for it to have if he has not given you a release. And when God gave me that release, I knew that it was go time. Wow. And he reminds me every year when I think that I'm good on telling my story, he'd be like, no, I didn't heal you to be good on it. I healed you to continue to tell it, because there's a whole world out here And when you touch, one year you may touch this part of the world. The next year you may touch this part of the world. But I healed you in my name. Therefore, it's your responsibility to continue to share my name. Yeah. And that came from understanding and the release of sharing the testimony.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So we're gonna end here, man. Thank you for coming through. You have a book that I have. I should have brought. That would be more professional if I had it with me, right? So I could. You had a book. You have a book. You have a book. Man, let I guess the folk who are listening.
That's for a season. It's on my website, MichaLogan.com. It's an ebook. You can download it. It's a quick read, but it just gives you some personal insight of what I went through every day for the season that I had breast cancer. It was a crazy 9-10 months. That in itself is crazy because usually the process is a lot longer. But God worked that thing out in 9.5 months. And here we are 7 years later.
I was just about to ask you that. Like, literally 7 years, man.
7 years.
Listen, 7 years. And it's so crazy. That thing went by. That 7 years went by so fast.
Perfect.
But yo, man, I'm grateful that you're here. That we're celebrating 7 years. Dude, yeah, this is one of my best friends out here, man, and she is a survivor. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for another episode. Thank you, Micha, for coming through. Listen, y'all, this is episode 3 of Recharge Worship Survivor Series, focusing on breast cancer